Joining us here on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline, the Commissioner, Stewart Johnston. Commish, big day for you. Did you get any sleep last night? That's my first question.
I was looking forward today. It's been a lot of work to get from there to here, but today was about unveiling what I think is just such an exciting piece of news. 151
days in office. I commend you. Because, anybody that's been a part of a business and you got someone that comes in and they make changes, the aggression on this to come out and the timing to put it out, I guess, a little past mid-season. Why the timing right now?
A few reasons, and I get it. It's some people call it odd, and why wouldn't you wait for the off season? A couple of reasons. One is these changes we're making in 2027 actually require infrastructure change. So I want to make sure that everyone's aware we're working on this. We're going to work with our turf. We're going to work with our goalposts and manage the changeover for how we're going to rework and reimagine our stadium infrastructure. So I want to give enough time for that. Secondly, I think amateur football would appreciate a full year and a half and not me just delaying for a few months for the sake of delaying for a few months. I think it's great to get this out there so amateur football can start thinking about it. They may not adopt these rules, but at least it gives them time to think about it. And then finally, I'm just going to say, guys, get used to it. This is when I'm excited about something, and I couldn't be more excited about these changes. I'm not waiting. Let's go. Let's work with pace and let's move our league forward.
Love that. One thing on the amateur football, were they in the discussions at all? Football Canada down to the grassroots, or is that something that's coming up now?
Look, I wanted to make sure that I spoke to the leadership of Football Canada and U Sport, which I did, so that they heard from me before they heard it from a press conference. And they were very appreciative of the calls. We had really good initial discussions, but of course, I'm not going to ask them to react in real time to the decisions the professional football league is making. What I did offer was of two wide open hands for collaboration. Anytime they want to talk about kind of all the data and analytics that went into our decision making, we're very happy to share that, and then discuss, of course, places where we play on the same fields and how that can work together. But really, it's just the beginning of those conversations.
Commissioner, it's Maz here. One of the things I want to commend you on as a fan of this league, I truly appreciate every time you speak, and I saw it today, the passion you have for this game. It makes me as a fan feel like we're in really good hands. And it's great to see, because sometimes the person in charge doesn't always give off that vibe. And secondly, because you had mentioned in your press conference when you were talking about making the rule changes, especially with the rouge, and we're going to get into all of the changes. You said you would hate to see a Western final, an Eastern final, or a Grey Cup determined with a rule like that. Has there been any discussion to speeding that up so it wouldn't happen potentially in 2025 and not wait till 2026?
Well, Naz, first off, I'm glad that the passion I have for this game comes through when I speak, because it's a big reason why I took this job. I hope I'm bringing a lot of business skill to the job, but it's really all driven from a passion for the game, and I am so energized. I tell this to the staff all the time. I am so energized by where we are going, moves like this, the support we have across the league and at the governor's level to really push our game forward. I'm wired. I'm so excited. But to answer your question, I don't think it would be appropriate to change a rule mid-season. Look, I'm going to hold my breath for the remainder of the games, playoffs, and Grey Cup. It hasn't really happened yet in one of those super meaningful games, but I don't want to change a rule mid-season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. How many people and any prominent names, if you can mention, that were involved in this group and the back and forth?
I won't mention names. I will tell you it was a tight circle. When you're working on something that is as significant and material a change as what was announced today, you really want to work through that and understand kind of where our position is. What are the pros and cons? What's the data tell us? What does our own common sense tell us? And I wanted to keep that as a tight circle, so that we could have those conversations without the worry of kind of the onslaught of opinion that would come if it was more well known. So we kept it tight. It was really, I went on a 100-day listening tour, and believe me, when I chatted with fans and you guys and team officials, other media, I planted a few questions just to see what the answers I would get, and so I took some of that information with me back to the office. Then we got the right people with the expertise in football operations, data analytics, stats, marketing, communications, historian, all together and said, this is the core team. We are under the cone of silence. Let's work on this, and we have been for the last number of months.
A lot of the things that were announced today could be described as innovation to the game and the product, and maybe you used that terminology. I think some of them, though, Commissioner, are common sense. And my common sense one is having the players, the professional athletes, these grown men, separated by sidelines, because we've seen scenarios where even a couple weeks ago, Ryan Dinwiddie, after the game, he's wandering down or whatever, words are being exchanged. And I'm like, this is a powder keg that can really go wrong. I mean, look at the Ryder game last year in Ottawa with the command center debacle. And then after that, was that, if there was hierarchy of what needed to be changed, was that tops on your list to be like, we got to have this separated?
I won't put that at the very top. I do think the uprights moving was the very top. That was the catalyst that drove a lot of this. However, in terms of benches on opposite side, I'm going to say the mitigation or even elimination of the powder keg that can be there when you get professional athletes in a very excited state so close to each other is a wonderful byproduct of the first objective, and that was I need these teams to be able to make their substitutions efficiently because of the 35-second automatic reset clock we're introducing. I can't have a team buried all the way down near one end zone trying to send a lineman 70 yards to the other side within 35 seconds and start the play. So that was the number one objective, was efficient substitution. But yes, I'm not going to deny that the byproduct of separating the teams and just avoiding that situation, that's a wonderful benefit as well.
Staying with the posts, Commission, I got to tell you, my 12-year-old son a couple of years ago comes at me and says, why are the goalposts at the front of the end zone? And we're watching an NFL game. And he goes, well, why wouldn't I just use that as a pick when I'm playing? There's so many things. Sight line we talked about. Anyone that's ever thrown a football in Canadian football, you got to be so conscious of where they are. Moving of the goalposts, that is, you're also hoping there for that to create more offense with the goalposts out of the way, basically.
We have, you're absolutely right. And you can tell your son that at the professional level, they use the goalpost as a pick, which is so I've seen that before. And I think if you asked some offensive receivers off the record, they'd confirm that. But yes, I think that, we were focused on, actually, I apologize. Can you repeat I'm so excited about the pick. I forgot what the actual question was.
You're hoping that it also creates, more offense with the settling for points in quotation marks could be out the window a bit.
Well, this is where the data really supported our argument. We looked at the data of how many pass attempts have been to the left third of the end zone from, call it the goal line, to 15 yards deep in the end zone, how many in the center, and how many on the right third of that end zone. And it is overwhelming how many attempts and completions for touchdown are on the right third and the left third. And it's almost half and more than, or less than half attempts and completions over the middle. And it doesn't surprise you. I think you use the words common sense. Of course, quarterbacks aren't eyeing over the middle. They have to dodge an obstruction. And we take that out. We think we are opening up the middle of the end zone. And again, this is where our stats tell us we think we're going to grow completions in the end zone by 10%, and that can result in at least 60 more touchdowns per year.
Wow. Nice.
Commissioner, you said that change won't take effect till 2027 because it's an infrastructure thing that the stadiums have to deal with. For the common person,
correct.
I've seen videos on the internet where after a college game, they rip down the goalpost and they take it to a river and throw it in. How much work is involved? What is the cost as far as goalposts in the end zone, as like the work and what goes into that? Like where they are now to move them. It's no small task, is it?
It is no small task, but it's a manageable task. And once the new footings for the new location of the goalposts are settled, it's actually relatively straightforward to transition or transform a field back and forth. So, for example, those stadiums where our CFL clubs share the field with the U Sport team of that city. If U Sport does not adopt these changes, that's okay. We'll just move the goalposts back and forth and repaint the field to the different configuration. So once we get there, it's a little more straightforward. Having said that, we do want to work with those folks who've got different states of their turf currently. Some are stitched, some are painted, and then obviously we've got to work out. We've got to have discussions or further our discussions with the, sometimes we aren't the owner of the stadium. A city might be the owner of a stadium or the university might be the owner of the stadium. So we're just going to work out those details as well.
That is a lot of work right there that you just shed some light on. I want to get to the rouge. Long time coming. I was just talking to some Americans about it this weekend. It's so funny. Now, I have to ask, though, if anyone's ever been involved in a puntapalooza in the Canadian football game to end a game, it is so much fun. What's going to happen there now? Can the ball be punted out? And then if it gets punted back, are we losing that side of it as well, Commish?
I'm gonna punt that question to my rules committee,
okay,
and let them come back to me with their thoughts on it. My feeling is we don't lose that. A punt backwards or back should still be available. However, I'm gonna park that one. I will say that was not in the realm of our thought process as we discussed that change.
Those are the best games to ever be a part of. But the end of the thing is now we only got 15-yard end zone, right? So you got to place that punt tight, or else it's out of the back of the end zone, and then it doesn't matter. So okay, we'll punt that question. 35-second clock to that one again. It's interesting that you bring it up, and now a lot of casual fans are like, oh, there was a lot of arbitrary calls by the official on when that clock started. That is probably the one on my social media and text messages that people are worried about. What do you say to people that might be worried about we're going to lose that frenzy in the last part of a CFL game?
Well, I think that please don't be concerned about the ability for comebacks at the end of the game, which, however, I might argue the one thing we don't have at the end of our games is a frenzy. That's not how I would describe the end of our games. We have a great ability for a team 2 scores down to come back in the last 3 minutes because we stop the clock at every possible moment. Mm-hmm. And Hamilton this past weekend, they had a drive and completed it with a last-second field goal to win. They got the ball with 1:12 on the clock. It took 11 minutes in real time for that drive to go to completion. Mm-hmm. That's not a frenzy.
Yeah.
That's a casual meandering is how I would call that. So what we and the rules committee are going to work on is trying to find the exact right balance of offering teams an excellent opportunity for comebacks in the last 3 minutes of a half or a game, but at the same time encourage urgency so that we actually are moving at pace and maybe creating a frenzy. I would love for it to feel like a frenzy. I'm just not sure it does right now.
Commissioner, yesterday when the tweet, the message on Instagram, Facebook, whatever went out that there was going to be a major press conference tomorrow, just know that if you're on any CFL channels, like Barney said, things started to melt down. People were losing their mind. A lot of theories going around, some crazy, some crazier than others. One of the things that I thought, and I've always liked, and I saw people post, eliminating the divisions, 9-team league, top 6 make the playoffs. You came from the TV business. Viewers, engagement, you know this. The Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Grey Cup can draw a lot of eyes because they can do that in the regular season separately. But together, no offense if it's a Hamilton BC Grey Cup, may not have the same appeal. Since you said the discussion is always ongoing and you like change and you want to keep evolving these things, is that something that may be on the docket in the future?
I would suggest that's exactly the type of thing I would want to review. I'm not offering an opinion on that, and I'm not offering a direction on that. So let's just be clear. But that is exactly the type of thing that I want to review to say what makes sense. I know the staff at the CFL League office are tired of me saying, please don't do things just because we've always done them. Question everything, and then ultimately support why we currently do it with an argument, and then let's move on. And that would be a great example. I will question that, and we might find this is the best system, and let's move on, or maybe we'll offer a change. But that would fall right in the wheelhouse of things I'm excited to look at.
All right, Commissioner, well, just a couple more, and these ones could be quick. Kind of on the heels of that one, were there a few that didn't get passed that maybe were left on the cutting room floor? You don't have to say which ones unless you want to, that maybe will get revisited in a few months or in time?
This is an easy and a quick one. No, there weren't.
Okay.
This was the exact package that we put in front of the Board of Governors. And the reaction was overwhelmingly enthusiastic.
Right on. Okay, my last one. I would have lost a bet today because I thought it was going to be about expansion. I got a little bit of egg on my face there. Any American investors looking at the league right now, maybe a team, whether it's in Halifax or somewhere in Canada?
I'll leave it at this. You've asked me this question before, and I think my answer has been, hey, expansion's not a top priority. It's, of course, an absolute objective. You can sense maybe today what a top priority was for me, and I'll continue to focus on things like we did today, and in terms of and how things like you suggested with the divisions. Expansion is always going to be at least on the middle burner of what's happening, and we receive a lot of incoming calls from Canadians and international, I'll say, folks who are interested in our league. So I can tell you, things are always cooking, but we've learned our lesson to let's let it cook a little longer before we get too excited. Right
on. Commissioner, what a day for you and the league. Commend, like Maz said, everything that you're doing, your passion for the league. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for doing this today. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, folks, for the support. I can't wait to see what's next.
Ooh, there it is. There's the tease, folks. That's our commissioner of the Canadian Football League, Stewart Johnston, joining us here on the Sports Cage. If you're watching the stream at sportscage.com, or as always on the home of the Riders, 620 CKRM.